Hello everyone and welcome to Clear Voice. I'm John Monahan.
And I'm Christine Caswell. Clear Voice, the news magazine that brings the world into focus through a Catholic lens.
Many of us have seen the devastating pictures that have been coming out of Japan in the wake of the earthquake and the tsunami.
That's right, John, and many people are looking for ways in which they can contribute in helping the people of Japan during their hour of need.
Rome Reports focuses this first report on some of the agencies helping out in Japan and how you can contribute.
As the world watches Japan struggle to recover from the recent earthquake and tsunami, many aid organizations are scrambling their resources in the region to offer help. Catholic Relief Services and Caritas International have been accepting donations for anyone who wishes to donate to their relief effort. The 9.0 magnitude earthquake that sent 30-foot tsunami waves crashing into Japan has left thousands dead, with the death toll climbing every day as more bodies are discovered. International aid agencies, such as the Red Cross, are accepting donations via text messages and through their Facebook pages to help survivors. The earthquake was the fourth biggest in recorded history, and the full extent of its damage remains to be seen.
This week, we continue our series focusing on Catholic higher education. We're looking at the importance of Catholic identity and Catholic tradition on campus and in the curriculum.
Today, Clear Voice talks with Barbara Humphrey McCrabb, who is Assistant for Higher Education at the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. Barbara tells us about Pope John Paul II's document, Ex Corde Ecclesia, and how it's being applied in Catholic higher ed.
Ex Corde Ecclesia is it's an apostolic exhortation John Paul II wrote in 1990 that it looks at kind of at the heart of the church. For him, higher education really helps to feed the life of the church and, in fact, shapes and informs the larger culture, larger society. And so for him, there's a special relationship that a Catholic university has, or a college has, with the church, the local church, with the bishop, and Ex Corde Ecclesia kind of lays that out. It took the U.S. Bishops and university presidents and colleges really 10 years to create the application document for the United States. So the application document takes Ex Corde and says, here's how we imagine or envision living that out here in the United States. And now that application document called both for a 5-year review, which was done in 2006, and we are now at the 10-year point where the application document calls for the USCCB to do a review of the application document. So my image is it's kind of a taking of the pulse, right? That there's an expectation that bishops and presidents would be in conversation. And in many cases, there's transition, right? So between presidents changing and bishops changing their locations, it's a focus of them being in conversation over a period of time. You know, the bishop in our church plays a unique role in terms of the teaching role that he carries. The bishop's responsible really for passing on the faith and for educating the local faithful in the traditions of the church, right? In many ways, the Catholic College and University provides really an incredible support and formation to that process. So it's really important for them to be in conversation. One of the tenets of Ex Corde calls for example, faculty members who teach in sacred disciplines, that they would have a mandatum, which is a ecclesial authority. So it's approval by the bishop in recognition that they're teaching authentic Catholic doctrine. And so that's part of it. But I think the larger scope, as we look at Catholic identity, it's not simply how many masses are offered or that that Scripture is taught or that Catholic theology is taught, but that Catholicism permeates the life of the campus. And it's that relationship that we really look to a favorable relationship with the bishop and the university leadership.
Next week, we'll continue our look at Catholic higher education, talking with some presidents and officials from Catholic colleges and universities about Catholic intellectual thought. Right now, though, let's turn our attention to World Youth Day, which is coming up this August in Spain. With large crowds expected to descend on Madrid, there's a campaign in place called 100% Natural. Its goal is to make sure that World Youth Day goes green. With a little help from a company called Zero Emissions, World Youth Day 2011 promises to be a clean energy event.
The 2011 World Youth Day in Madrid will be an environmentally sustainable event in respect for the Earth, thanks to the campaign 100% Natural. Part of the work will be carried out by the Spanish company Zero Emissions, which plans to offset the environmental impact of World Youth Day through purchasing carbon credits from 5 sustainable projects meant to represent every continent. Our work is based on calculating the carbon footprint of the entire event and the voluntary offset of emissions in the same way others have done with events this large, such as the Olympics or major cultural events like concerts, which follow this trend in reducing your carbon footprint and offsetting it with carbon credits from projects that produce clean energy. The Energy Clean World Youth Day has also created a new path in Madrid for people to walk or ride their bikes, an attempt to cut down on CO2 emissions.
During the
event, we are going to create a series of footpaths that are good for the environment. For example, one path will go from Cibeles to Cuatro Vientos Aerodrome, where people can walk or ride their bikes. We will also create an online tool called Carpoolin, so pilgrims can find a place to catch a ride. To help publicize the campaign, young people can participate in a logo design contest by 100% Natural, the winner of which will win a trip to Rome for 2 people.
Everyone who attends World Youth Day this summer in Madrid will get a bag of swag. Among the goodies inside, each bag of souvenirs will be a rosary, provided by Family Rosary International. Rome Reports tells us more about the rosaries. It's all part of an effort by the Family Rosary Apostolate to promote praying the rosary every Saturday.
7 tons of prayer beads will arrive in Madrid in late April. The rosaries will be one of the gifts distributed in the souvenir packs World Youth Day pilgrims will receive. The 600,000 rosaries are being donated by Family Rosary Apostolate, an organization that promotes this devotion.
For us, this donation is a means to highlight the importance of the rosary, to emphasize the importance of prayer.
The organization donates over 1 million rosaries each year worldwide. Father James Phelan emphasized that their manufacturing arm employs families with low incomes.
The rosaries are made in a factory in Quito. They aren't made in China. They are beads made in a Christian country for Catholic families, in a city with many poor people, and in a factory that employs 150 families.
The Family Rosary Apostolate will launch a global campaign in May for World Youth Day to promote the praying of the Rosary every Saturday, the day that the Church dedicates to the Virgin Mary.
Coming up next on Clear Voice.
It's one of the largest bronze Stations of the Cross in the world. A special truck and crane carefully erected each of the crosses and larger than life-size statues along the Via della Conciliazione.
During Lent, many Catholics will say the Stations of the Cross at their local church. Well, a joint project between the City of Rome and the Chilean city of Coquimbo brings the ancient tradition to life on the main street leading right up to the Vatican.
The stations are on display until April 29th, when they will then be moved to their permanent home on the slopes of the San Miguel Hill at Chile's Shrine of the Third Millennium. Catholic News Service has more on these unique stations.
It's one of the largest bronze Stations of the Cross in the world. A special truck and crane carefully erected each of the crosses and larger than life-size statues along the Via della Conciliazione, the wide boulevard that leads to St. Peter's Basilica. Each figure weighs more than 375 pounds, and with 49 statues in all, that adds up to nearly 25,000 pounds of bronze. The work took 3 years to complete and was carried out by Domus Dei, a company of artisans run by the Sisters of the Disciple of the Divine Master. The mayor of Coquimbo, Chile, commissioned the Stations of the Cross for his own city. But before the statues are shipped to their permanent home in Latin America, they will be on temporary display in Rome from March 11th to April 29th to help pilgrims reflect and pray as they head to St. Peter's during the Lenten and Easter seasons. There are 14 stations in all, each one depicting in precise detail the people who witnessed the Passion of Jesus.
It's been 3 years since the death of Chiara Lubich, founder of the Focolare movement. Rome Reports looks back on her extraordinary life.
Chiara Lubich was born on January 22, 1920, in Trent, northern Italy. When her father lost his job because he defended socialist ideas, Chiara began tutoring so that she could afford to go to college. In the midst of World War II, while Trent was being bombed, she decided to devote herself completely to God. It was on December 7, 1943, that the Focolare movement began. Although her family fled to the mountains, she decided to stay in town to help victims cope with the terrible consequences of the war. She worked to bring unity and fellowship to all people. It became the charism she would promote the rest of her life. In 1991, in Brazil, shocked by the social conflict and poverty of the favelas, Chiara launched the Economy of Communion, a project based on solidarity in which a portion of the proceeds is given to the poor. Currently, there are 700 companies that follow this philosophy. From 1997 to 1998, Chiara worked especially hard to promote interfaith dialogue. She was invited to speak during this time about her charism to 800 Buddhist monks in Thailand, then to New York to 3,000 Muslims at a Harlem mosque, and in Buenos Aires to a Jewish community. Chiara Lubich died on March 14, 2008, in Rocca di Papa, near Rome. Today, the Focolare movement has 140,000 members and over 2 million friends in 182 countries.
At the beginning of the Via Dolorosa, a new museum recently opened to the public. Inside are important artifacts from the archaeological digs at the main holy sites of the custody of the Holy Land, such as Nazareth and the Mount of Olives. H2O News has more on the Museum of the Flagellation.
Not only living stones, but stones of memory. The Museum of the Flagellation at the beginning of the Via Dolorosa contains artifacts of enormous historical and religious value, and for a short time it is open to the public. The Franciscan archaeologist, Father Eugenio Aliata, has personally overseen the project and enthusiastically helps us to discover the museum.
For a few months, the museum has been open to the public on a regular basis. It was open upon request in the past, but few were willing to call first and find a person who would be available to open the museum and accompany them. It was done, and some people took advantage of it, but now, being open on a regular basis, many more people, even simple passers-by, can stop, come in and browse the beautiful things that we have on show. We have above all important artifacts that come from the archaeological digs at the principal holy sites of the custody of the Holy Land. For example, we have a room dedicated to Nazareth, a room dedicated to Capharnaum, with a section reserved to the excavation of Magdala. We have rooms dedicated to the Mount of Olives, the excavation of Bethany, which is behind the Mount of Olives, and Herodium. And we have brought together diverse collections of precious objects which have belonged to the Franciscans in different places and at different times within the Holy Land.
At the Flagellation Museum, which commemorates the location where Jesus was flogged, some volunteers have been cataloging artifacts. Leila Faberi of Cesena opens the museum every morning to the many curious pilgrims who flock daily to the Via Dolorosa.
The museum is open from 9 to 1 and from 2 to 4 every day, except Sunday and Monday.
Heritage that is centuries old but protected and preserved, revealing the Holy Land in a unique context.
The Pontifical Filipino College in Rome was blessed and inaugurated by Pope John XXIII back on October 7, 1961, on the feast of Our Lady of the Most Holy Rosary. Many of the students who've studied there over the years have eventually moved on to become priests and bishops in the Philippines and around the world. On this, its 50th year, Rome Reports takes a closer look at the Pontifical Filipino College.
There's an urgent need to have Filipino priests studying in Rome, says Father Gregory Gaston, the rector of the Pontifical Filipino College, because Rome is a strategic center of learning for Filipino priests and seminarians.
I think Rome offers something else, something that could not be offered by other places, simply because of the nature of our church. The center of Catholicism, of Christianity is here in Rome.
The college's history dates back to 1959, when a conference of Filipino bishops unanimously agreed that they needed a college based in Rome for the formation of their priests. For the past 50 years, many Filipino priests have come to study under the guidance of the Pope and have gone back to their country to serve their respective dioceses.
Many of the graduates here from this college have become bishops, prominent theologians in our country, staunch defenders of the faith, and able consultants in matters regarding our faith and morals.
Father Gaston said that the priests who come to study at the Filipino College are able to be formed in all areas and become truly equipped to preach the gospel.
They take up different subjects depending on their specialization and the need of the diocese, especially the seminary, but also the curia in the diocese, meaning the close collaborators of the bishops. Some do their studies in sacred scriptures, in philosophy, theology, communications, some do in social sciences, and so many other fields. And I think we really need specialists at this time for the church to be able to preach the gospel, to proclaim the gospel to the most diverse types of people, nationalities and mindsets, and so on.
The college, located within sight of the dome of St. Peter's Basilica, is a second home for many of the priests that come to live and study in Rome.
It's a home away from home, surrounded by Filipinos and with a Filipino atmosphere. So we feel that although we left the Philippines, we are in the surrounding and the atmosphere, which is also Filipino. And it's good for us to be here and experience. Even we would cherish and treasure as we go back to the Philippines.
The college, which was blessed in 1961, is preparing to celebrate its 50th birthday this October. The students and faculty of the college had a special audience with Benedict XVI in February to celebrate the occasion.
Coming up next on Clear Voice.
Filling the holy waters, bells, lights, bonfires, Boy Scouts, outdoors, indoors, dress shoes polished, women in fancy hats, church packed with everybody who's anybody.
Hi, I'm Father Reed. Could you do us a huge favor? Help us to bring the Catholic TV Network to every home in the nation. Just go to this page, www.catholictveverywhere.com, and fill out this simple form. Then please ask all of your family, your friends, and your contacts to do the very same. CatholicTVEverywhere.com. And thanks for your help.
John, a movie about a group of men traveling 4,000 miles to freedom is the subject of Father Chip's review this week.
And Christine, that movie is called The Way Back. It stars Ed Harris and Colin Farrell. So let's find out what Father Chip thinks about The Way Back.
Every now and then you go and see a movie that makes you think about life and the day-to-day struggles you might have. And the movie puts everything into perspective. Recently I saw such a movie. It is called The Way Back. It was directed by Peter Weir and stars Ed Harris and Colin Farrell. It is a story of a band of men who escaped from a Russian gulag in 1940 and must trek 4,000 miles to freedom. As you can imagine, they encounter great hardships on this journey. The first of which was the escape itself into a blinding Siberian snowstorm. Let me tell you, friends, it really gave me something to think about as I complained about our winter here in New England. The snowstorm was really out of control, and from there it just got worse. Every day seemed to bring a new challenge, whether it was hiding from the civilians who would surely turn them in for the ransom, or fighting off mosquitoes that seemed able to drive a man crazy, or, and perhaps the most daunting of all the tasks, crossing the Gobi Desert. In the desert, they had to fight off not just exhaustion and dehydration, hallucinations and hunger, all while trying to make it to the next guidepost on the journey. This movie shows us how we can accomplish an impossible task if we set our minds to it and have faith. It shows the triumph of the human spirit and also the despair, because not everyone makes it out alive. This movie, while a little long, shows us that we should never give up in pursuit of all our goals. Thankfully, you and I don't have to worry about such harrowing adventures, but life can throw up little roadblocks, and watching The Way Back can give you a little boost of the spirit when you might be having a bad time. The Way Back is rated PG-13, and it is about 2 hours and 13 minutes long, so plan on setting some time aside to watch it, and make sure the little ones don't see it, because there can be some scenes that could frighten them. Overall, I recommend this movie, and for a more in-depth look at it, keep an eye out for my show, Spotlight, where Father Bill Kelly and I have an in-depth discussion about the movies, both old and new. God bless you.
And of course, you can join Father Chip and Father Bill Kelly every week on Spotlight right here on Catholic TV. It's time now to look at the many significant events that have happened this week in the Church.
This week in the Church on March 17, 493, according to tradition, St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, died in Saul. Some sources list the year as 493, others say 461. It is listed in the Catholic Encyclopedia that the Apostle of Ireland was born at Kilpatrick near Dumbarton in Scotland in the year 387, died at Saul Downpatrick, Ireland, on March 17, 493. On March 21, 1851, in Vietnam, the Emperor Tu Duc orders that Christian priests are to be put to death. And on March 22, 1927, Archbishop Robert Seton dies. He was the grandson of St. Elizabeth Seton and the first American priest to be named a Monsignor. On March 23, 1534, Pope Clement declared that the marriage between Henry VIII of England and Catherine of Aragon was still valid. The marriage was dissolved in Britain the previous year, and Henry had married Anne Boleyn. On March 23, 1540, in a show of growing support for Henry VIII, Waltham Abbey in Essex became the last monastery in England to transfer its allegiance from the Catholic Church to the newly established Church of England. And on the same day in 1966, Archbishop of Canterbury Arthur Michael Ramsay met and exchanged public greetings with Pope Paul VI in Rome. It was the first such meeting between heads of the Anglican and Roman Catholic churches in over 400 years. And those are just some of the events that happened this week in the Church.
Well, Christine, what's the word?
John, it's time to check in with Matt Weber, as a matter of fact, and get his always fascinating insights on life and the world.
And this week, Matt returns to the subject of altar serving and focuses on, in the altar serving world, the biggest mass of the liturgical year. Here's Matt with this week's A Word with Weber.
You want to talk altar serving? We'll talk altar serving. Oh, I served my time at Holy Cross Parish. Yeah, we had it hard. I served during a bit of an altar server recession and had to step it up, make sacrifices for my church. 7 a.m. masses almost once a week, serving all the funerals. They got you out of class. You still had to make up the work. Sunday Mass cross-bearer duties were good, but we all wanted the big show. That once-a-year shot at the major leagues, full incense and candles, multiple lectors, use of the baptismal font, refilling the holy waters, bells, lights, bonfires, Boy Scouts, outdoors, indoors, dress shoes polished, women in fancy hats, church packed with everybody who's anybody. Standing room only kind of thing. I'm talking about the EV, the Easter Vigil. This wasn't just a mass, it was an event. The culmination of this Lent that we're experiencing right now. But the vigil just didn't happen. We made it happen. We practiced a day before to get this down. We memorized new parts. We showed up an hour early. We all had our jobs. I liked holding the incense boat or refilling the holy water, holding the book during adult baptism. Now I also had the height. Boom! You, Weber, reach up and get the flame from the Paschal candle and share it with the church. I never missed. I must say I love serving this Mass. It was long and late, but we were prepared and practiced and were ready each and every year. Plus, from the perspective of a 12-year-old who hadn't tasted a drop of ketchup or soda in over 40 days, Jesus rising a day early was extra good. It equaled McDonald's French fries drenched in ketchup on the car ride home, washed down with a 32-ounce Biggie-sized Coke. I was tired, I was satiated, I smelled of incense and old musty albs, but the EV was over. So was Lent. Don't say it with me now because I believe this is airing in Lent, but alleluia, alleluia.
That's going to wrap it up for our show this week. I'm John Monahan. Thanks for spending some time with us on this St. Patrick's Day.
That's right. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Same to you.
To everyone out there, of course, St. Patrick is the patron saint of the Archdiocese of Boston.
That's right. Good trivia.
Absolutely. I'm Christine Caswell. We hope to see you right back here next week for Clear Voice.